Namaste. Welcome to Such Conversations Matter. Conversations that represent the future we should have. I'm your host, Saurabh Nanda. Today's guest is Ms. Pallavi Ghosh. She is an anti human trafficking activist, and she has been doing this for the past 10 years. After completing her education from Delhi University, she realized that she wanted to be an activist. She wanted to help people, especially human beings who are trafficked, labor, migration, all the aspects surrounding human trafficking. Pallavi has registered her own trust in December 2020 to make better organizations which work for anti-human trafficking. She was part of the farmers protest also. She's a UN woman. She's a freelancer and consultant to many NGOs, many non-profits and civic society organizations. Now, I met Pallavi last year when the lockdown was in full force, and five educators, including myself, we thought of creating an online forum where we could discuss about the future of education. And actually, I invited Priyank Sharma, who created that forum and introduced me to Pallavi as well in the last season, episode 22. Please check that out as well. Now, having had so many conversations with Pallavi about education, about non-profits, about NGOs, about how things work in this sector, it is a privilege of for me to actually have her on the show and talk about activism in detail, all the aspects surrounding it, the human trafficking element, why activism is needed, how can you get involved, what it means, and so on and so forth. So, without wasting any more time, let me invite her over. Hi, Pallavi. How are you?
Hi, Saurav. I'm fine.
So, Pallavi, before we start the interview, and this is a question I'm asking everyone who's on the show. And first of all, thank you so much for taking out time to come on the show. How was your 2020?
I think 2020, I won't say it was bad or good. It was a mix of both because so many things I got to know about myself. That's one thing. I was in work from home, which actually never happened in my career because I am a person who works on the ground. So of course, it was a mix of both good and bad. I can say that.
All right, and well, I'm really happy that at least there was some good in your 2020 also, because a lot of people we know have suffered quite a lot of losses as well.
Hmm.
Um, Pallavi, why don't you just help us in understanding your profile, your journey so far? Would you like to summarize your professional journey a little bit for us?
Yeah, so I have been working. I'm a human rights activist basically. I have been working. My core specialization has been anti trafficking, gender based violence, migration, conflicts, justice. So that's been my expertise. So I started, you can say, 10 years back, but full time I started around 8.5 years back. So yeah, the journey was more of being with law enforcement, all kinds of law enforcement, rescuing children from all kinds of social levels. It can be anything, prostitution, organ harvesting, forced marriage. So it is mostly criminal, like everything surrounded with crime. So it's always something that's very negative, which we uh, are generally not ready to accept. Like we have this attitude, or you can say we are cynical. Crime, always something negative, always missing children, kidnapped children. So that's how I have been, and somehow it you can say affects me right now, because I have worked for 8.5 years. So definitely it affects me. But then it has been a really good journey because, to be very honest, I can have a good night, peaceful sleep that I have saved lives. So I think my journey, if I personally have to say, it has been incredible. Of course, there was a lot of sacrifice in terms of personal life, but then I won't think that it's a sacrifice, because in order to do something big and great, you have to sacrifice something. So
So, Pallavi, that's I mean, it takes so much courage just to even think about these things, and you've been doing this for the last 10 years. What has been your inspiration? Where did you get the motivation to do it? What is the strength that really fuels your passion for this?
See, initially, I never knew that I will be an activist. I never thought it. I read something in the newspaper one day, and it's kind of triggered me, and I wanted to understand the root cause of it, like why people do it. Uh, do people do it by choice? Are people forced? Is the government like promoting it? What is the thing? So I started doing a lot of research and everything. That's how I got to know about trafficking, and then I got to know about sex work. I started digging more and more. Then I realized that most of the people, those who are put in all kinds of the social evils, like this begging, you can say this fast fashion, all of this, like cracker factory, all kinds of labor. I realized that it's mostly done because of human trafficking. Now, in order to know what is human trafficking, I had to read a lot about human trafficking. And then, when I started rescuing children initially, uh, after the rescue, when a child tells you that you have given him or her a new life, I think that is a big motivation for me, because just 2 days back I had gone. I came from Himachal in the morning, and in the afternoon I got an information that there were like 5 to 10 people confined in Ghaziabad. I went in the afternoon to do a verification of that place, and then again in the night I did a raid, like around 12 o'clock, you can say. There were 40 people in that house, and all these people were not young children. They were people as old as 40 to 50. All of them were kept bonded and confined. So the fact that it's not about age, it is that your rights are being violated. You are not allowed to leave about moving from one space to another. You are not even allowed to speak. There is no freedom of speech also. So I think if I in any way can help in actually making these people get that itself is a big thing for me. So I think that constantly motivates me again and again, and that is one reason that every day, even if I'm tired, I'm like, okay, let's get up, we have to do another rescue. So
Wow, it's it's completely unimaginable. I mean, what you are doing on a daily basis, and what people think about these things. People would like to not believe in such things, as if they would like to ignore the fact that these things do not exist, right? um, Pallavi, if you are doing this,
mm.
then what are the authorities doing?
See, if you ask me, the authorities, according to the authorities, they are doing everything. But if the authorities are doing everything, then I don't have to do this. Like, for example, uh, a child cleaning the street, that is not the job of the child. That is the job of the so called person who is in charge of PWD. Like, so you can understand. So there is always a discrepancy. If a judiciary is doing their job, if police officers are doing their job, if everyone is doing their job, I don't think I have to go to the ground. It is just that I have to go to the ground because everyone who are responsible for it, accountable for it, are in some way not doing it sincerely, with that much of sincerity, and you can say dedication. There is always some loophole. Of course they are doing it, but they are not doing it to the level they should do it. So that is the reason I think I have to do it on a daily basis.
And what is the level that they should be doing this at? So you said, they're not doing it at the level where they should be.
Hmm.
Is that level not defined for them? Is it not there in the job description of that particular official, that they have to protect the people against all these atrocities?
See, the level is, one has crime. Everybody knows that if you look at prostitution, for example, it's illegal in India. So if it's illegal in India, it's not possible for a red light area. I'm taking just Delhi as an example. It's not possible for a red light area to function in the 10 kilometer radius of the where our president resides. It is in the 10-kilometer radius of Rashtrapati Bhavan, a crime which is illegal. So why do you think it is being promoted so much? Because the demand for it. There is so much of demand, and that's why there is supply. And then it's a huge industry. So it like you can say human trafficking is the third, one of the third after drugs and arms. It is the third most profitable earning industry. So much of money is being earned. So even if some people want to kind of completely abolish it, or you can eradicate or whatever, they won't do it, because so much of revenue is being generated from it. Like, so it is all interconnected. So I think the level, if you say, then they have to think that ki we have to kind of stop it completely. We will not get any profit for it, and that is the only reason that all these things, whether it is human trafficking, whether it is selling of arms, selling of drugs, all this tobacco, alcohol, it's not stopping. So that is one big challenge.
And as I understand, human trafficking exists not only in countries, middle income countries like India, but all across the world,
Hmm.
no matter which society we are talking about.
Yeah.
So it's basically a human evil,
Hmm.
and you are trying to fight the human evil, and this evil will exist despite the government, despite the authorities, despite organizations like the UN. It will always exist.
Yeah.
Is it so?
Yeah, it will always exist, because there is so much of demand, no, that you can't stop the supply. And there is so much of demand of minor people, minor children, minor boys, minor girls, that unless and until you say no, that you have this conscious, your own conscience, or your self reawakening, ki no, we will stop this, we need to stop this. Unless and until that thing comes, this can never stop.
So, Pallavi, why is activism needed? I mean, I think we've kind of answered that question, but I want to hear it from you in clear words. Why is activism needed? Why are activists like yourself needed today?
I think activism is about anything. It can be a campaign, it can be filing an RTI, it can be putting a PIL. It is an action. It is an action which can actually help in driving a change. Now the change can be social, it can be political, it can be anything. Any action. And action doesn't mean action very like what you call strong action. Like for example, the farmers protest. Like people sitting on the road, uh, they are bearing this heat of Delhi, people are dying. So that severity of action will actually help in, even if not making a policy, but definitely in creating, you can say, a furor, or you can say it can like to drive people to think about it. So that is activism according to me.
And why do you think we need to go to such extreme levels? I think the world today has been witnessing some of the largest protests in its history. Obviously, I mean, the farmers' protest in India is probably the largest protest in the history of humankind so far.
Hmm.
But we've seen similar protests happening in Romania, in Chile, in various countries against climate action, Black Lives Matter, so on and so forth. Why is the world going through so many activist, large scale movements today?
I think that's the only way. Because, for example, if I we say that the court is the highest level which give us justice. Like, for example, if you take about International Court of Justice, you know that there is Supreme Court in Delhi, there is High Court in Delhi, there is High Court in every state. If you go to a court, you file a case, you put a PIL, you put RTIs, whatever you do. The process is so delayed, and nobody knows about it. Activists do it because when activists start a movement or an action, people know about it. How do people know about it? Media, newspapers cover it, people talk about it, there is awareness, there are campaigns, there are actions, there are groups, there are individuals who try to. So for example, if I start a movement, somebody thinks like me, like our thoughts align, so that person will get involved. More and more people getting involved, more and more awareness, more and more media coverage. So people, those who are staying in the what you say, like in Kashmir, somewhere in maybe what you call somewhere in interior Kashmir, someone in Gulmarg, who doesn't even have internet, who doesn't know anything but reads newspaper, gets to know about it. I think that is why activists are getting more and more popular and prominent, because it is reaching the people. The more people you reach, the more you can think that there will be, if not policy, if not change, but there will be noise. So the more noise you make, definitely things will wake up. So that's why I think more and more movements and activists are coming up.
So do you agree with the statement that when the systems fail, activism is the last resort in a democratic society?
Absolutely. I to completely agree with it, because I feel even if the government is not ready to make a law or not ready to uh, make a policy, whatever, but the government is bound to listen to you. At least for once, the government have to listen to you, because you have shouted so much, you have wrote slogans, you have made mass protests, you have talked about it, you have gathered people. For example, you see farmers protest. It started in Delhi, now it is across the country, everyone is covering it, roads are blocked, people's normal life are being challenged. So you make the government, if even if not kneel down in front of you, at least to understand that they are answerable to you, they are accountable to you. So of course activism, I think that's the last resort left.
Pallavi, I want to understand this deeper. So, there are various aspects to activism. First is when you talk about strong action, it automatically incites or provokes another person's emotions, which are towards more towards aggression and violence, and that is why a lot of people think I don't want to get involved in this, right? So, how does one convince other people that activism is not about aggression only? It is about raising your voice for the collective good and not only for your selfish good.
I think in order to make someone be part of your activism, you need to make that person understand why you are doing that cause or why you are fighting for it. Unless and until you yourself are convinced that you are doing it, which will kind of contribute for the growth or maybe for something that is right, you cannot convince somebody else. And any activism which is not on the right way will definitely collapse. Whenever you take a cause for activism, it can be anything, whether it is cutting a tree, or you whether it is like, you can say that okay, it is climate change, for example, or maybe it is nautical. For example, I went to Shimla a few days back, I saw that how the hills were being affected because of tourists coming to the place, hills being cut. So you have to make people understand the causes, the effects, the reasons why you are doing it. What will happen if you don't do it? So unless and until you have that whole plan or framework in your mind, you can't convince people to join your activism. And in activism, you can't force people. People have to come and join you because they believe in you. They will volunteer for you. They understand you. They align with your cause. Only then activism can actually be given a shape. If you force people, if you lure people, if you tell people that okay, you be a part of my activism, I will get money, it is bound that after a few days the activism will collapse, because people have not joined your cause because of that inner, what you call inner call. They have joined it for some profit, for earning name, for earning fame, and this name, fame, money, everything is short lived. Unless and until somebody believes, somebody has a goal, I think the activism can never take a right or correct shape and form.
So, Pallavi, I mean, you've been part of so many movements, and you were part of the farmers' protest also. Um, when you see these movements and protests, when you're in the center of this, there must be some threshold, right? There must be some tipping point. Okay, boss, today we are, today suddenly the movement has taken a different shape. Today
Mm,
suddenly we are going to achieve some result.
mm,
Today suddenly there is a lot of energy which was not there before.
mm.
How do you think that any movement or any activism related campaign reaches that tipping point?
I think it reaches when you keep on continuing fighting for it. For example, with the farmers protest also, initially when the protest started, there was this hope and faith. the government will listen, the government will listen. But you know, when you see the government is not listening, 30 days, 60 days, 70 days, 100 days, not listening, not listening, so what you do? It is like, you know, you there's an outburst. Like it's like, are they are not listening. Now what you have to do? You have to come up with constantly new ideas, but also you have to make sure the ideas and the what you call the plans are not violent, because any activism has to be continued with a lot of dedication, patience, sincerity. You have to make the government or make the people for whom you want to reach or who you want them to listen to you. You have to make it so strong, but you have to make sure that it's not violent. The moment you become violent, the whole cause or the whole thing fails. But the tipping point comes whenever people are not listening to you, because as activists we are also humans, we also have a time frame. We also know that, okay, if you are doing it for 6 months, 10 months, somebody will listen to us, there will be some change. But then when you see that people are not listening to you for years and years, months and months, that is when you kind of break, you have an outburst. And that is one time a lot of activists turns violent. They start writing negative things. They become, so I think anger overpowers them. But then if you're a true activist, you have to maintain that anger. You have to channelize that anger in a positive way, so that actually some constructive change can happen.
There are so many wonderful questions that are coming to my mind. I'm gonna take them one by one, Pallavi. Um, I want to know the difference between personal motives in an activist movement. Like, if I become an activist in this movement, because a lot of people do it for political gains, right?
Mm.
They're not the ones who start it, they're not the ones who end the campaign, but they definitely take a lot of limelight away from it. How do you draw the difference between true activism and doing something for political gain or fame or some selfish motives?
See, you will understand it if you go to that particular movement. You will understand it, because people, those who do it for political gain, they will try to promote only themselves. They will try to promote themselves. They will be spread all over social media. They will want news channels to cover them, and they will want only themselves to be the focus. But when a person wants the movement to be the fact focus, when a person is not concerned about his or her own benefit. For example, I will mention about few people. I was in the farmers protest. I have gone there every single day for the last 2.5 months. I did not go there for my benefit. I think I clicked one picture because somebody told me I'd written an article for a Turkish newspaper, so they wanted a picture of me. So that's why I clicked my picture. I saw people there who went one day. They went to the podium and they were giving Jai Kisan, Jai Jawan dialogues. I saw their timelines full of pictures. I saw them promoting only themselves. They were never concerned about the fact that how the farmers' protest is running, whether the farmers are getting food, whether the farmers are having mental health issues. So when people are not concerned about on ground people, those who are fighting, they are concerned about themselves, they want themselves to be promoted. It's very easy, I think anybody can understand it. You just have to go 2 3 days, you will see it. It's very transparent. You will see like who are driven by political interest, who is driven by personal interest, and who is driven by actually people's interest. You can definitely find it. It's quite easy.
Okay. And Pallavi, so as you said, you have to sit for a very long time sometimes, so that the government listens to you, the authorities listen to you. I remember the case study of somebody from Manipur who actually eventually died, but she was on a hunger strike for years
Hmm. Irom Sharmila.
because of yes. So I don't want to get into the details of that, but we know that she was on hunger strike for years. Isn't Aren't there any rules in the constitution which actually suggests that if somebody is striking, or if somebody is saying something which the authorities need to listen, and if you are just turning a deaf ear to it, the media has been covering it, the people know about it, the politicians know about it, but you're still not listening to what they're saying, isn't there anything in the constitution which guarantees safety for those people, that you need to, somebody in the government needs to listen to them and take action.
As far as I can understand, I think none. The government is only concerned about the fact that if you are fighting, if you are protesting, you don't harm the other person. You don't create hindrance for people in their daily life. Otherwise, I think the government is hardly concerned, because there are how many crores of people in this country. If somebody is fighting in one part of the house or one part of the world, the government is hardly bothered. The government will only be concerned, like it is for every government. The government will only be concerned if modes of transport stop, if there is some financial, you can say, if the bank collapses, if there is some kind of hindrance in the smooth running of the government daily. Otherwise the government, and you can't stop it also. For Irom Sharmila also, they tried to make her on house arrest, but it did not help. So I think definitely, if you ask me, then I don't think the government is hardly, they hardly bother, they hardly care.
So then ultimately what you're suggesting is, unless and until you hurt the government where it hurts them,
Hmm.
at least politically,
Hmm.
all right, because I'm not, I don't really think that they are really even concerned about government property anymore. They're
Hmm.
just concerned about their own political motives.
Hmm.
So unless and until you hurt them politically, they will not listen to you.
Absolutely.
So activism has taken that shape where being an activist basically means directly locking horns with the political government.
Yes, you have to. Like, for example, right now, if you look at the farmers' protest, roads were blocked. There were pins that were on the road. Children used to cross those pins and go to school. Just imagine, the government started getting curious and panicky the moment they thought that these children might get hurt and their parents might file a PIL or an RTI against the government. The governments are hardly concerned about the farmers, because even the roads are blocked. The government hardly bothers. Like, there were so many DTC buses that were actually broken. Each buses come in 40 to 50 lakh rupees. Imagine, this is our money, taxpayers' money. Government money is taxpayers' money. So our money is being used as barricades for farmers' protest. So you can imagine the government is hardly concerned. So unless and until it affects the government directly, where their reputation is at stake, the government will definitely keep silent. For example, you saw that with the farmers' protest. You saw that when celebrities like Rihanna and everybody started uh, uh, tweeting, the Ministry of External Affairs passed a statement. Unless and until there were lakhs and lakhs of farmers protesting, the government did not pass a circular or statement. The moment two celebrities tweeted about it, the government issued a statement or a circular. Why? Because they are scared that their image in the international, so-called international forum, will go down. So you can say the government is only concerned about its reputation and image. So
So and that is where a very important question comes in now. In India today, we are in one of the demographic golden periods, which happens in every country's lifetime. We have the largest amount of youth population right now. We have more than 105 crore people in the working population,
mm,
right? So no other country right now has this demographic dividend which we
mm,
have. And currently, with the unemployment and with the lack of opportunities, recession and all these things, everyone wants to talk about these things, but ultimately they are also scared because they don't want to make enemies politically. So if you want to do something but you also are scared at the same time because the government is behaving in a certain way, how will you motivate the youth to be part of activism today?
I think you, at some point of time, you have to get that fear out of you. Like, for example, I'll tell you, so many people tell me that, yeah, why do you keep on posting so many things in Facebook and all? You will be arrested. Like, there's this guy from UP. I have kind of adopted him. Like, so he's a Muslim guy. He has been arrested by the government of UP twice. Why? For speaking the truth. Why? So I think at some point of time, no, you have to get out of that fear. If you don't get out of that fear, you are never an activist, because the more you the more you are scared, the more you will stop yourself from talking. And when you start guarding yourself, no, that okay, I will be arrested, I can't speak, my job is at stake, then I think somehow you are not a actual activist. And a lot of people do this armchair activism. I have seen so many people talking in Facebook, doing this change, that change, having a different name in Facebook, but in reality they don't fight, leave about for others rights. They don't even fight for the rights of themselves, for the rights of their family members, for the rights of their what you call society. To forget about it. So I think you have to get rid of that fear. You cannot think that,
Why
"Okay, I'm an
why
activist."
why are those people right? So why are those people involved in armchair activism? I mean, if they feel so strongly about it, why do you think they're just doing it? Is it for selfish reasons and getting fame?
It one can be selfish reasons and fame. Second thing is that they want to actually do something in the ground, but they can't because they have families. They need to be in a proper job to like to provide food for their family. They have a social image. They can't get rid of that. They have a fear for their life. Their fear for their families being victimized and injured, but they feel for the cause. So somewhere they will show that no. So they do it through armchair activism. So
Got it, got it. And Pallavi, so in today's world, even though our youth today, our students today, they are so aware because they have access to internet. I mean, they can keep on reading fake news, but at the same time, they can check whether it is fake news or not. They have so much power through the internet. If somebody feels strongly towards activism, um, well, we have two problems over here. One is the parents, obviously, because they will not want their children to go out for certain reasons. They want them to have a decent life or whatever that is. um, how do those young people convince their parents that this is important and this needs to be done?
I think it's very difficult to convince your parents. It is very, very different. For example, I stay with a family. They are very supportive, but somehow, you can say that somehow they believe in it, they understand it, but that adrenaline rush is not there. कि हम क्यों करें, like for example, why are people not involved in activism? There are many reasons for it. Most people are like, I don't have time. uh, how can I help? It doesn't affect me. Like for example, if for trafficking also, I'll tell you a very small example. A police officer used to mock at trafficking in West Bengal. He used to laugh and tell me, he's a good friend, he used to laugh always. 10 days back, his niece was trafficked in Orissa. He called me, he was crying. So, unless and until it hits you in the own family, you don't realize it. So it's like, uh, this is not my problem. For everybody, it's not my problem. It's not affecting me. So a lot of my friends are telling me, a lot of my friends, a lot of my minority friends are really affected, so they are very upset. But a lot of my other friends, they don't care. Why they don't care? If you ask, they're like, yaar kya hoga, like what will happen if I do it? How will it help me? So motivation is a different thing. They can't relate to it. They feel that if they get related to it, it will give them unnecessary trouble. For example, you just imagine, 1 month back I was coming home, I saw a man. He was fallen down from a scooter on the road. Hundreds of people passed seeing this man. It was a hit and run case. He did not die. Nobody took him to the hospital. Why? Thinking that police case hoga, I will be called in the police station. I took him to the police station, hospital, and I called his son. So people always think that they will be in trouble. So there is this always fear that I will be in trouble. People never think that they can contribute or they can change. There is always this fear that I have to save myself. I have to guard myself. So that is one reason that people don't want to get involved in activism. If you want to motivate people to join activism, then you have to constantly promote and guide them. You have to tell them that as youth, how their actions can actually help in changing the what you call future generation, in changing the situation or scenarios for future generation. For example, the situation of our country, it's quite delicate right now. A lot of religious issues are cropping. Why I am interested in it? Not because I think that I will have children. I am interested in it because I know that government will come, government will go. But the social fabric, if it is spoiled once, it can never be got, we can never get it back. And today it's a problem for one kind of religious groups. Tomorrow it can be a problem for me. Tomorrow I might be thrown out of my country. So unless and until you make people understand, you have to make people understand not by telling them ki are you be in my shoes. Nobody will believe it. You have to show people how the future is coming. And I think if you can show people the reality, if you can make them believe, if you have the conviction, then people will definitely join activism.
And that brings us to such an important point, Pallavi. There are so many fellowships today
Hmm.
which are there. There are so many opportunities with non-profits to educate the youth about grassroots level issues, about social issues, about human rights, animal rights, planet, climate and the planet, and so on and so forth. Do you think these fellowships, one of their aims or objectives, is to educate the youth about these things?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think fellowships will also help, because the fellowships can, first of all, it gives you recognition. It helps you to do proper outreach. You have a proper goal, plan, aim, objective. You It's like you have a vision. Without fellowships, most of the people are, it's like a sheep without a rudder. You are roaming, you don't know anything. And then one reason for people not to join activism is that people think they don't get money, they don't get recognition. They're like, oh, it's like, I'm not getting anything out of it, why will I do it? So fellowships give people that motivation. Fellowships uh, arouse that curiosity in people. Fellowships give them a support. And most important thing, fellowship actually channelizes a plan. So I think fellowships are definitely very important.
That's amazing, Pallavi. Since you talked about money, can you tell us what are your future plans? What are you thinking to do in the next couple of years? Where are you working right now, and other aspects?
I'm working full time with an organization, like it's a trust, but I work as a consultant, because the pandemic has made me realize that I can never go back to that 9 to 5, 9 to 7 job. But I don't do 9 to 7. I do, you can say, 15 to 16 hours, but that's fine. But on my own flexibility, and my career plan is to work for the cause. See, just by rescuing 5 to 10 people, it won't help, because thousands and thousands people are trafficked. I will rescue 10 people, again, they will be trafficked. No point. I have to work for the cause. And that's the reason I registered my trust in December, because unless and everything is related, patriarchy, gender based violence. For example, just think about Haryana. There is so much of female feticide. That is the reason there is forced marriage. There is so much of gender inequality. That's the reason there is so much of dowry. So everything is interconnected. I want to work for the cause. I want to uh, work to eradicate poverty. I want to fight to help people gain employment. And then I want to actually work for people so that they are literate. Because unless and until all these things are addressed, you can never stop trafficking. What are the causes of trafficking? Poverty, unemployment, disasters, natural disasters, migration, illiteracy. So I think you have to work for the cause. And the more you work for the cause, the more you can help. And one thing I believe is that knowledge and wisdom is something that you need to share. I, as an activist, can't change the world. You have to invoke that activism spirit in everyone, not by telling them to stop their job as bankers, engineers, doctors, and do activism with me. No, but doing activism in their own area, in their own department, making people aware, working for prevention. If each doctor starts talking to every other doctors, if engineers start talking to people, if the people those are involved in modes of transport, like you can say pilots, people working in railways, people working in ships, if they are aware about it, because most people are not aware about crimes like trafficking. If you go to doctors, they think trafficking is traffic signal. So I think the more you talk, the more you can change. So that's what I believe, and that's why I want to do it.
That's perfect, Pallavi, and all the power to you, all the force to you. May you have may you're able to support and help a lot of more people. Pallavi, there is a question that I'm introducing in the second season for all the guests, which is, what would your career advice be for students today, maybe in school, maybe in colleges, as to if they want to get involved in such ventures where they are helping others, helping the planet in such, how do they go about it? What should be their career plan according to you?
I think the first important thing is that find your area of interest. Find your areas of interest. Whether you want to be a painter, whether you want to be an activist, whether a musician, anything, get connected to someone who is already in this field. Try to uh, get internship opportunities, anything, and always follow your passion. Like for example, I have seen so many of my friends. Yesterday I met a person who was an engineer and who left it and has become he's been walking thousands and thousands of kilometers for enlightenment. So I think it's very important that you have to pursue your passion. One thing, you have to understand what is your skill and expertise, because for example, you may note that you have a skill in something else but you are doing something else. You can't do that. So you have to, your passion and your skill has to be the same thing so that you can do it. Second thing, always understand that money is a big motivating factor. So when people say that na ki yaar I don't need money, I just want experience, no, anyone who is saying that is lying. That's what I feel. Because you need money to eat, you need money to live life. When you can live a life, I'm not saying you have to live a lavish life, when you can live a comfortable life, only then you can think of bringing change in people's life. So I think it's very important that you understand that how you can have a good comfortable life, following your passion, enhancing your skill, and connecting it to your job. Because nowadays job is the only time where we are spending most of our life. Most of us join job by 23, 24. We do it till 60. Imagine, we don't spend that much time with our spouse, with our parents, with our children, the time that we spend in our job. So unless and until it's interesting, unless and at least it gives you some motivation or something to learn every day, you will burn out. So I think it's very important that you kind of remember all these aspects when you're looking for future goal or future jobs or future opportunities.
Is political activism also considered? I mean, what I'm trying to ask is, will you join politics sometime in the future? Because that is probably one of the ways you can change things.
I have been approached so many times by so many political parties. I would definitely not join politics. The reason is that the activism gets diluted. The moment you join politics, you have to align with that party's mission and vision. So your own mission and vision, which was to change the society or to bring a radical change, gets diluted. And politics in any country is considered one of the most dirtiest things. Like people say that if you are in politics, you are in kind of a drain. So that's again you can say a myth or a misconception. But I definitely don't want to join politics, because I feel the moment I become a leader, I will gain power and fame so much that narcissistic attitude will come that I can do anything, I can change anything. So the honesty or the sincerity that was there in me, and the purity of thought, ki, okay, I will do it. I think that will get infected. That's the word I would like to say. That will get infected, and somewhere I will not be able to do justice. So definitely, I would never join politics.
That is a great level of self awareness, Pallavi. It has been a pleasure talking to you and recording this conversation. Last question before we conclude. So, Pallavi, what would be a one line sentence, one liner that you would like to give for the world to make the world a better place?
I think it is each one reach one. I am someone, if I reach someone, I make the other person aware. The other person can make another 10 people aware. 10 can reach 100, 100 can reach. I think each one reach one. Anything. Have dialogues, have conversations, positive dialogues. I think that can really change. That's what I feel.
Wow, that is such a succinct and amazing sentence, and it says so much about it. It has been wonderful talking to you, Pallavi. Thank you so much for doing this, and take care and keep doing what you're doing.